Namaskaram to all Rasikas and welcome to the Vande Guru Paramparam series and to the special session of Sambhashana we're going to be having none other than Dr. Sucheta Bide Chapekar ma'am. Ma'am, welcome to the Sambhashanam series. Vidushi Dr. Sucheta Bide Chapekar, one of the finest exponents of Bharatanatyam, trained under gurus Acharya Parvati Kumar and Guru K.P. Ittappa Pillai. She's a dancer, a teacher, a researcher, a choreographer, all this rolled into one. She's especially known for her development of a new innovative concept called as Nritya Ganga, which is a combination of the traditional Bharatanatyam style with a lot of compositions and music from the Hindustani style from the Hindustani system, from the Hindustani genre. We will get to know more about it today as we speak to her. She has done a lot of performances in India and abroad. But specifically, she has done a lot of performances, innumerable performances in Maharashtra itself, and explaining the art form in the nook and corner of the state, explaining it in Marathi, which has helped in greatly popularizing this art form in the state. In order to propagate and to take it to the next generation, to pass it on to the next generation, she started the Kalavardhani Trust in 1988, and it's been functioning for nearly 3 decades right now. And she has trained innumerable students through her institution. She has won innumerable awards. The list is long. I don't have enough time to even talk about so many awards. The notable among them being the Sangeeta Natak Academy Award. So I'm extremely happy and fortunate, ma'am, to have you here today to have this discussion.
Thank you. Long time back. Well, I must have my training with Acharya Parvati Kumar must have started, I think, early 60s. And before that also for 5 years I was learning from a teacher. Since we were in Mumbai, I think it was possible to, and my parents, though we belong to Chitpavan Brahmin family and there is no music or dance in the family. My mother was very fond of music, but she was not allowed to, or there was no possibility she could learn it. But my father was a painter, he was an artist, and he had left home, Pune, to find work and to find a guru in Mumbai, which he did. And later on, he got a break in film industry. So those years, they used to paint the posters and display on the road. So he was one of the top men in the industry. Bhide Vishwanath, so he used to sign as B. Vishwanath. So somehow, right from my childhood, he always felt that my baby is going to dance. I don't know, like all children, I must be doing some movements when the music was on. So there was a teacher coming next door and he said, okay, you come and teach my baby. So this teacher, Mr. Mangeshkar, was also a Maharashtrian and he had some training from Acharya Parvati Kumar. He himself was a very good dancer, but then only all the classical styles were getting to be known. What is Kathak, what is Bharatanatyam. So he had taught me one composition in each style, one in Kathakali, one in... And then he said to my father that Well, now she knows we should do her program. She knows done. So I'm today when I look back, I'm really grateful to my father. We say our parents are our first gurus. So he told this Master Ji, look, I know my daughter knows nothing. Take us to your guru. And so we finally landed in the house of Acharya Parvati Kumar. He used to stay in Tardev in Mumbai. So that must be a very fortunate day when he accepted me as his disciple. He said, yes, I will teach this girl. Now, as you rightly say, in his, he also belongs to, though name is Parvati Kumar, he also belongs to a Maharashtrian family. And they are from Malban area, and his father had come to Mumbai for a job. So somehow he had, like he was a born dancer. All he wanted in life was to pursue dance. So wherever he could and whatever he could, he had tried to learn. And then he got break with INT, so he did lot of ballet. So he had learned bit of Kathakali, bit of Kathak, everything. But by the time when I went to him, he had decided that Bharatanatyam would be his main topic, and he would teach only Bharatanatyam. So then in Mumbai, the only institute was Rajarajeshwari Bharatanatyam Kala Mandir of Kupaya Pillai sir, and he went to them, Mahalingam sir, Kupaya Pillai sir, he learned from them. So he was teaching only Bharatanatyam when I went to him. Though, of course, years later, he did one ballet, Discovery of India, based on Nehru's book, Discovery of India, through which I also got a lot of stage experience. But when I went to him, he was concentrating on Bharatanatyam. Now you say, talk about his style of I wouldn't say style, he was a born teacher. He would give hundreds of examples to bring out the abhinaya on the face of the student. And then there were very few classes as such. It was always one-to-one. My father, we stayed in Dadar. My father took me to his house 3 days in a week for 3 hours in the morning. And my school was just opposite my house. So he would bring me back in the car and I would run to school. So like this, it continued for 4 years, 5 years. After that, he told my father that, yes, now she knows one full margam and we can try putting her on stage. He was a very strict taskmaster. At times I remember that he would say, no, hand must go straight. It's not going. You are not doing. Go home. Today class is over. Practice and then come. Then I would cry. But today I realize the importance of going over it again and again. When I started teaching, I realized how important the lines and forms are to dance. One more thing I remember, he had a lot of interest in the Shastra of Parampara. So Shastra and Parampara are like two wheels of this chariot of dance tradition. And he always gave equal importance to Shastra. He was very well versed in the texts, and in the small house he had in the outer room where we used to practice, he had a cupboard full of books. And one, I would like to tell this, he would call me at 7 o'clock. Those years to get ready, have bath, and from Dadar to 5 miles away to Tardev was a journey. But I would be there. Then he would be in his inside room. They had kitchen and one bed and puja. He would be busy with his puja. So at least half hour, 40 minutes, I would be outside in this room, practice room. But then slowly I started going through the books in the racks and I would read, and I feel that he did it purposely. He kind of had judged that I had interest in texts as well. And then whenever he would give a shloka from Abhinay Darpan or from some book, I would say, Masterji, from which book it is, please tell me. Then he used to say, मैं आम दे रहा हूँ तुम पेड़ क्यों गिनती हो मगर आई थिंक पेड़ गिनना ही मेरे लिए अच्छा हुआ because later on when I also went to do my MA and my later on wrote thesis on my new work Nritya I remembered that I mean like a true teacher, like a true guru, he would assess what the student really had liking or inkling for. Tell everybody Darpan, Abhinay Darpan shlokas with the actual we started performing in the sense narrating the shlokas through actions. That was what he started, and much later he also presented the whole Abhinay Darpan through Abhinaya. So those years of training I'll never ever forget. They are still with me, what I got from my first guru. So after 4 years,
I'm just one question here.
Yeah.
Now, especially with Acharya Parvati Kumar, as you also mentioned, he also had learned different styles. And of course, at the end, he decided that he wanted to do Bharatanatyam. When he was teaching you, did he also mention about those styles and what is the comparative between Bharatanatyam and other styles, or any of those aspects? Did it come into the teaching, or was it purely Bharatanatyam?
I don't think he never compared or made us do or made me do, or none of his students. After he took up Bharatanatyam, it was only that. He would analyze, of course, according to text, but he never said this is how they do in Kathak and this is how they do in, no. It was only in that experience of working with under him as he was the choreographer of this Disco of India. There again he used all the different styles for different scenes according to the moods, because each style has its own aesthetic and its own mood. So according to the subject matter of the situation, like Mughal period, he would use Kathak, and for so different aspects of that book, he used different styles. So I got to see. But in my learning Bharatanatyam, he didn't mix anything else. It was pure as he had learned the adabus. And then another his guru was Chandrasekhar Pillai from Baroda, the father of Kubernath and Janardhan Pan Pillai. Kubernathji was, for many years, he was still in Baroda. So, my Arangetram, Chandrasekhar Guruji was there, Parvati Kumarji, my master, and my father also invited my first teacher, Mangeshkar. He was also a very good dancer. Only thing is, well, whatever knowledge he could collect, that was limited, but he himself was, so that those, as we say in art, samskar is very important. So right from the beginning, that visual aesthetics was always in front of me, which did make a lot of impact on me. So after Arangetram, almost 8 years, I continued my training with Parvati Kumar. So it was not just those years just to complete the Arangetram, but all in all, almost 12 years I was with him. And during that time, his research started. That research was on Marathi compositions of Tanjavur rulers. Yes. So as you mentioned that I danced all over Maharashtra. So these Marathi compositions were written when Tanjavur was ruled by Maratha rulers during 18th, 19th centuries, almost for 180 years they ruled Tanjore, but it was not just rule, they continued the fine legacy of the Telugus and the Tamil rulers. So in Tanjore culture, even today, you find the confluence of all these, the Tamil, Telugu and Marathi. So, well, the rulers were very well versed in Tamil, Telugu, Sanskrit, Hindi, Marathi, of course, but what was their mother tongue? So they had learned Carnatic music, and this branch of Shivaji's father, Shahji, his one wife, Jizabai, was in Maharashtra, but another wife, he had the Jagir of Bangalore also. So they were in Bangalore. So already they had this influence of South, Gangoji, when he became the first ruler of Tanjore. So Carnatic music was the only kind of type of music which they were familiar with. So though they used Marathi lyrics, wordings of the compositions was Marathi, but all the ragas, talas, and the forms, the structure of compositions was purely Carnatic.
Right. And also, ma'am, it is also very significant because it is also during their time when, the famous Tanjore quartet, the Nattuvanars, were also there in Tanjore. They were patronized during that time. So it's a very important period in the history of dance and music.
Maratha period is known as golden period for Carnatic classical music. So Masterji took up compositions of King Sarfoji. There was a book which came to his hands which had a very strange name, Korvyache Sahityache Jinnas. Now, Korvai, as you know, Tamilian Korvai is link. So that was a Tamil word. Korvyache Sahitya. Sahitya is a Sanskrit word. Sahitya means literary piece. And Jinnas, actually, Jinnas in Marathi, it comes from Farsi word. It is a piece, it is called. So they were Marathi dance pieces, whatever this Korvyache Sahityache Jinnas. And it was to his surprise when he opened, there were not only compositions like Alaru, Sholla, Shabda, Varna, Pada, Swara Pada, and Tilan, and Jakkini, and so on. But the Sahitya was Marathi, so he was totally full of excitement that we should do it. And then he got help from Janardhan Pant Tanjorkar, who knew Marathi as well as Carnatic music. He was a radio artist in Mumbai, Vainika, and would speak also in Marathi, Tamilian. So he kind of restructured or structured according to the ragas, talas were given. Some places there were given the notations also. So there he put the same notations in Tal, but nothing was written in Tal. That was not the system in those times. So I was the only kind of ready student with Masterji. So he not only involved me with the research, but also taught me these first 20-25 compositions, which I think in 67 I first danced them in Mumbai. So this whole set of today what we call as Margam, Sarfoji has called it as Nirupan. So Nirupan means one more idea which he has used is, he has used single theme, single rag, single thag for the whole Margam. So maybe in those days, people had time, there used to be long programs and that was possible. Today, doing 18 items in one program, that's people have no patience. Rasikas want everything in short time. Yeah.
Right.
So as a guru, I would say Parvati Kumar made me part of his whole research because he could see my interest in studies and in texts and these things. So which was to very much to my advantage because later on I went deeper into the subject. I could.
And also, ma'am, I think you had the advantage of the language. So I think emoting would have been much more, easier for you, to take it through.
Yeah, even when we did anything Tamil or Telugu, every word to word meaning was explained to us. Much more, I realized after my Arangetram that it was more than words, it was music, you know. So that was one thing Masterji could never learn Carnatic music, Parvati Kumar Master. So that was something I got from Guru Kittappa later. But before that only that awareness had come that it is Carnatic music. I have to learn Carnatic music and this I started. There also I got very good guru in Mumbai. By then I had married, come to Pune, but then I used to travel every week to Mumbai and to go to my music teacher and it continued. For 8 years I did learn Carnatic music and so then I could, because Kittappa sir, of course, when I went to him, it was totally a different approach. Kittappa sir would not talk so much or explain so much. He would just sing. And through his music came what came out, whatever he had to say. By then, I was quite, I knew the technical part well. He never had to correct me too much with that. Some things, of course, he would say, because he is Kala Pramanam, he always enjoyed a very slow Vilampakar. And somehow I also realized that it suited my temperament, the musicality of his style. And I think my presentations must have changed quite a lot after I started going to Kittappa sir. Of course, I was in Pune, he then was in Bangalore, but he would often come to Mumbai. Those years, Vaijayanti was very much performing and he would do Natvangam for her. So whenever he came there, he would come to Dadar, to my parents' place, and he would teach me. He also has come to Pune, stayed in my house and taught me. And then I would also leave my small children behind and go to Bangalore to learn. And with him, it was always giving koncham. Small things he would give. I remember I used to be there for 8 or 10 days. I had found out some people who my father knew and we used to stay with them and then walk to his place through Lal Bagh. And then he used to stay in a small outhouse of this lady's house. He would teach me only one small thing, and then I would say, please, sir, I will come in the afternoon, I'll come in the evening. He would say. But today I realize that those are the items, whatever I learned from him, even if you ask me early morning, okay, do Ragamalika, do this, I'm able to do. So that slow sinking was probably, he did it, he could see that, I was able to absorb, but still he wouldn't go fast. Go ahead, okay, learn in 3 days, go back, give my money. No. He was never that. Both my gurus were in that sense. Of course, my father, my husband, they were very, those years, of course, I had also started teaching, performing, earning a bit. But they were, I mean, money is important, and but they didn't teach for money. ये इसका दाम ये है, इसका price ये है, ऐसे नहीं था. So they taught for the love of it, and I think that those are the sanskars which I got from these gurus. So Kitappa sir, well, I would another thing I would like to tell about his Parvati Kumarji had taught us to write in notation. A typical system of notation he had developed where you could write the swaras and the tipanams, and below that we would write the adabus, and so it kind of consolidated, whenever you remember, if you have learned 100 items to what you actually learned from your guru was always there. So I have books and books where, so with Kitappa sir also, whenever he taught something, I would say, wait, and I'll start writing. Then he would ask, "Hey, what you are writing?" So, but next day when precisely the same thing when I performed, then later on if I forgot to write, he would say, here, write first. So he was open to new ideas, new things, and really a very jovial person. One thing also I remember once I went several times to Tanjore to my first contact with him came when I unearthed these King Shahji's composition. Master Ji had done research on Sarfojis, but 100 years before him, the second ruler was Shahji, and he was a great musicologist. He also had a philosophical bent of mind. Those years, these compositions, today's compositions like Alaripu and all these, they were not there. So he had written prabandhas, but as many as 500 padas in Marathi, all kinds of Shringara pada, Vatsalya pada, Bhakti pada, Bhava pada, so many types of pada. And I got the idea from Parvati Kumar only that something is there, and he is those years. Now there are several publications also of Shahji's Padam, but those years there was nothing. So that took me to Tanjore. I also got that time a grant from Sangeet Nata Academy to do my work, and so I used to go to Tanjore, and they Kitappa's ancestral house, 300-year-old house, which is still there. His son stays there. So I used to go there also. So in month of May, they still have that arrangement where some part of the year these these Natavanas have to be in the temple for the service. So he was doing that around that time. So he asked me, tomorrow will you dance in the temple? I said, yes. Now every temple is having festivals and things like that. But they are asking me, I said, of course, why not? And then he himself was doing Natvangam, Mutaya sir was singing, and he of course, Mridangam and all that he had there. And I remember I did Varnam which I had learned from him, Samini Ramanave on Tanjore, on Brihadishwara. And then he asked me, which padam? So I said, you haven't taught me any padam. He said, Padarivaru Gudu? I said, well, I have not learned. Then just I wrote, and in one day they sang and I did it. And my God, we from there got dressed up in a bullock cart. We went to Bradishwar temple. And on that Natavadara Chavadi, the performance used to take place there. That was really, I think, my another Arangetram, I would say, with Kitappa sir. So I got a lot of things. I mean, when I these Shahji pieces, when I found, I felt I should perform these as well. There was Salamu Daru and Jakkini Daru and Abhinaya Daru and several padams, Mangala Pade. So I took all that to Kitappa sir. I felt that the music of such old period, who would be the person,
Right.
you know?
Right.
There cannot be better person than, because he is from Ponayapilli's family. His father was also Ponayapilli. He was in Annamalai University. And many, I think, Bala Saraswati and all, they used to say, Tappa sir, more than dance teacher, he's a musician. He would play mridangam, sing beautifully. Once I remember in NCPA in Tata Theatre, I was dancing, and those years it was the beginning of Tata Theatre had just opened, and they wouldn't allow mics there. They had a lot of confidence that audio is so good. Of course, when somebody is facing and talking, still, I mean, 2000 people one can hear, but people sitting on the sideways and somebody is dancing, and that was difficult. But my singer, Padma Raghavan, she had strong voice. Whole program she sang without a microphone. Ramdas was on Mridangam. And so in the end, he told Padma to stop, and he sang the Navarasa Shloka. And I danced. Yeah, and my student was there sitting behind in Tanpura, and I don't know what struck her. She had a small cassette tape recorder which she put there, and that's my most prized possession. That he sang the whole Shrungaram in his high pitched voice very beautifully, and last minute whatever he sang, I danced, and it was people, I mean, audience was very happy. So such lot of such memories are there. So these gurus, I feel I'm lucky to have had such gurus, and I try now to imbibe certain things which I got from them. Apart from these two, I feel I have Bala Saraswati as my Manasika Guru. My father, right from when I was 6 years old, he showed me Bala Saraswati's program. And he remembers, I don't remember, he used to remember. I was very young, and when I saw her doing Krishnani or whatever, I started crying in the theater. So he said, "What happened, baby?" So I didn't know, but probably that music and her Abhinay touched me so much. So he would buy first row tickets and always show me in there. Then used to be programs in Birla Jain College Hall, in Sabha, Fine Art Sangeet Sabha was there. So, so many programs. At one point, I really wanted to learn from her. We also got a chance to meet her, but she said, "No, ma, I don't teach." And I don't think she taught many. She used to teach in music academy in Madras, but apart from Nandini and some her sister, Dr. Raghavan's daughters, and few girls, but I couldn't learn from her. But I think if at all today I'm able to do something, people say yes, you're a winner. Then I think that I have got from, I don't know. She has been my guru,
Inspiration.
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I feel that guru is something, either you have to, guru has to enter the Shishya's mind, or Shishya has to enter, and Shishya has to enter guru's mind. Then that relationship gets formed. Without that, it will not happen. Just teaching technique is not being a guru, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, ma'am. I think you touched upon a very important topic. They speak about, especially when we speak teachers who are great gurus who are there today, like you and the other from other areas as well. They have great memories about their gurus. Though the type was very different those days, as you said, you had a lot of discipline. a very orthodox way of teaching. All those things were there, but still, in the Shishya's mind, the Guru stands extremely tall. You had a very, reverential aspect with the Guru. Ma'am, when you are now teaching over the years, do you find that relationship changing now in terms of the Guru Shishya Sambandha, or are you still seeing that it is still being maintained?
I think it also depends on the teacher as well as the Shishya and the Guru, both. I don't think the temperament of students have changed. Times have changed, everything has become fast, and so many vistas of knowledge are available to them. So they want to do this, and they also have capacity. Children, we say every other generation, they are becoming much smarter. Things which we know at their age now, 4 or 5 years, child is managing these technical things. So generally, the intellectual power of today's generation has increased. But because of that, they want things fast. But my experience is that if you explain to them, body's capacity to absorb it and then bring it into action, that has not changed much. So once that is explained, then they do understand the importance of practice and riyaz and analysis of what they have done. So I always feel that, like in Gita, Krishna says, well, first you come to me. Once you come to me, then I'll see how to, even if you have falasha, if you want to have, for something you want to come. It's okay. Some people want just in 2 years, I should become a dancer, I should be on the TV, this, that. Doesn't matter. But once she or he comes to you, then it's the teacher's challenge. It's the teacher has to turn that shishya, turn that student or that person into shishya. So I feel like one of our gurus, Pandit Suresh Tawalkarji says, it's teaching has 4 different aspects. It's not just tantra. It is also shastra and vidya and kala. So 4 things are there, and all that kala will not come without samskar. So tantra, the technique can be taught. Shastra can be explained. But vidya are the compositions and so many things which can be given. Aspect of aesthetics that needs samskar. So the student, we must make the student ready to take those samskars and create that. See, when students come to me, my first question is, why you are learning dance? No, my mother said I should start some class. No, I want to take part in that competition and I want to dance. Many things are there. So I say, first thing that you want to enjoy what you do. Dance is joy. So when you feel happy, you want to dance. Whatever, when that's a very human instinct. So first start enjoying first learn to enjoy what you are doing. Then all the other things will come later. So accordingly, we have made a 6-year basic course. See, now it's all, they want to go from steps to step. So every year, exam means, I call it assessment. It's not an exam. You don't fail or nothing. You can go ahead. But we grade them. Whatever you have done, yes, it's very good. Not so good, put in little more effort. At least 80 or 85% of students who enter the class do continue for 6 years. Then after that, either they go for science, they go for so many. 12th is something they want to. Quite a few still continue during their 10th. I tell them, if weekly only twice 2 hour class, but if you come, you will get a lot of energy for your study. That way also you don't study 24 hours at home. So come to the class. You will be. And I have had students who have stood in the merit list of 10th and 12th, but had continued their dance practice. So what I feel is everybody in the olden days, when you learn dance, you had to become a dancer. When you learn music, you had to become a musician. But in South, this is something I appreciate, that every home, every child, at least vocal music, veena, violin, dance, something they will learn. They, as their routine, they will sing, they will play. So slowly it's coming in Maharashtra also now. There was, because of, I mean, many historical reasons, dance had totally taken back seat here. But music, of course, but even as you know, in musical plays, only men used to play women's roles. Women, under the garb of protection, they were not allowed in the field of art. But slowly things have changed, and now totally you will see middle class, higher middle class, they all want to come and learn. Though we can't avoid, there is so much of exposure. They see a lot of dance, foreign, this, that. But when they realize in foreign countries, when they go, they will value what you have. They will give it more importance. Then they realize that yes, whatever I have learned, or I should go back to India and start learning of. So slowly, I think they are realizing it is inevitable. The world is coming close, and all the influences are coming. So I feel we should, as teachers, we should make them, give them that power to discern what is good for them, what is bad, what we should copy, what we should not. It's always my effort to first inculcate in them the appreciation for what each and every girl who now comes to the class will not be there. I mean, she's not going to become a dancer. But then if at least out of 100, one becomes, who will come to see her? The remaining 99. So, along with artist, the guru also has to create the appreciative audience to make them appreciate the right things, so that the performer also, it's a responsibility to please such audience. So many times these days we do this because audience likes it, but then who is making thinking of audience taste? So I look at the class teaching, but from that now few girls, from 100, at least 3-4 girls, they would take it seriously, come to the university level. Now dance has become a university subject. So then they continue. They can do it professionally. There also, I feel each and everybody cannot be only performer. There are so many aspects. There is singing for dance, there is doing natvangam for dance, choreography for dance, lighting, sound, theater, creating the theater stage props. So many things are there which are connected today with this dance industry. So if you have learned dance, you can kind of enter into any of this field. I know in Pune have people, I mean electrical engineer, but now he does only sound for theater and for dance and for music. So so many branches of professions related to dance are also there, and I feel guru is somebody who really lights the eye of the mind. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धकारस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुन्मीलितेन यस्य तस्मै श्री gurave namah. So he should open that Chakshu we call Netra and so many names for eyes, but that Chakshu is Antas Chakshu. So what I really want to do in life, what is really dance, what am I looking for? So if you get somebody like this, that becomes, that bond is always there. But in general class, I feel it's much more a challenge to connect with each and every student if they are 15 or 20 standing before you. So that's very engrossing kind. And those teachers who are able to reach each one, they would do wonders. So I try to, kind of assess each and every one and then give them instructions accordingly. And many times there are many techniques, like, with any person, if you say, oh, how nice, you are looking so good, but this color doesn't really suit you, and there are a lot of crumple on your dress, you should have ironed it. So, because I have said first, oh, so nice, this looks, she would listen to the other instructions which I give. Same is true in a dance class also. I must find that some point where she's doing better. And if I find that, today this ayata is perfect, this is the way, look, everybody, how she's doing. So then she feels good. And next time, even if her legs are paining, she would sit and do. So many such techniques are required for the girls to, keep on continuing the class and learning till the point they realize, yes, there are many of my students who are in medical profession, they are architects, they are engineers, but I feel they are better engineers, better architects, better doctors because they have learned dance, because they have, through dance, they have, because dance is an all-encompassing art. You get idea about the music, the line, drawing, everything, the structure and the sculpture, and all arts are combined. But provided the teacher opens that world to the student, then automatically that Guru-Shishya relation gets formed. It's not just how much that Shishya's parents are, whether they are able to give me this, give me that. That will not create, it becomes a business. So in art, well, money with Saraswati, Lakshmi is also important one. But then this is a different kind of profession and one has to understand that, I think.
Absolutely, ma'am, absolutely. And you mentioned very nicely that today it's not just about the performance of the art form. There are so many avenues which might interest people. It's more about the appreciation of the art form, which is more important. So, as you write, audience also needs to be the next level of audience. We need to create that audience also. So, everybody, the 15 people in the class need not become dancers.
Yeah.
But at least they must know to appreciate dance.
True.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think it's a great thought. It's a great thought. Ma'am, I had one question, especially since you mentioned about your guru, your Masterji, Acharya Parvati Kumar, as well as you, who have taken up the compositions of the Maratha rulers of Tanjore. During their period of time, didn't they do much to bring it out in the public or make the dancers dance to those?
That there is no way to know whether all these were performed or not. There are some written things, manuscripts, lot of manuscripts in Modi are there still in the library, which somebody needs to discern. So there are some mentions that certain dancer was invited to perform in the court and was given some silk sari and some money, and they used to respect them, give them honorarium and ask them to perform. But whether these Marathi compositions were performed, there is really no way to know. Maybe those records, if somebody is able to discern some names or something, may come up. But I feel if he composed 500 songs, why? I mean, they must have been, or so many compositions Sarpoji has done. It's not just Korvacha Sahitya, there are other manuscripts. So hundreds of compositions they wouldn't just do unless they were performed in those times. But there is no really proof to say that, except one song of Samartha Ramdas, Tandava Nritya Kari Gajanana. That Marathi song has continued in the Katha Kalakshepam also tradition. This Marathi song, which is a poem of Santa Ramdas of Maharashtra, that has continued in the tradition. But otherwise, no Marathi. There are a lot of Marathi Abhangas, I believe, which even in Tamil Nadu, all parties sing, and they for their puja, a lot of Marathi Abhangas. But dance pieces, there is no proof that it continued.
Understood, ma'am. The other thing was when you took up this art form, especially the nook and corner of the state, Maharashtra, where probably they haven't even seen what a Bharatanatyam looks like. So they would have seen their typical folk traditions or folk dances or folk music. How was your experiences and what was the reaction of people when you presented this art form to them?
Yeah, initially I think because I, not only in Pune, Mumbai, Pune, those years, of course, more performances used to be in Bombay, but also Pune also now it's become cultural city, main city for dance music. People really, I mean, they took it up as initially they never used to believe. But when I explained in Marathi and I told the words of the song, but those years, initially, though the wordings were Marathi, the music was Carnatic. So after many years of performing these Marathi pieces of Sarpoji and Shahji, my question from my audiences itself came. They said, now you're doing Marathi Hindi, but in Carnatic music, it naturally, I mean, it loses its Marathiness. You know, so Sonyacha Divas, Aji Sarthaka Ya Janmas, when I say in Marathi, Sonyacha Divas, Aji Sarthaka Ya Janmas. If I sing like that, naturally it loses its Marathi flavor. But for us, for me, it didn't matter really. I thought Marathi was reaching Bharatanatyam to the audiences. And that did happen in so many small towns of Maharashtra. Then these cultural festivals were organized by Maharashtra government. And through that, I really traveled to many small cities in Maharashtra. But then I thought people started saying, if you are now using Marathi, and I also did Hindi, Kitappa sir composed 9 pieces of Shahji for me, the Darus and Padas, and those also I danced. But people started saying, now if you are using Marathi, why not Hindustani music? Their question was, I felt it was relevant. My guru, Parvati Kumarji, would never agree. He said, no, they were done in that music. But I said, why not? Why not go to, I mean, even in Hindustani classical, we may find pieces which are proper for dance. So that is how my work on trying to bring in Hindustani music started. It was not because I wanted to change the style or because I didn't like Bharatanatyam. No, no, no. It's absolutely, I mean, that's my language, that's my body language. And it was because I felt that apart from words, it was really the music, which makes the difference. Because still in Maharashtra, Carnatic music is not learned so much. It's more Hindustani music. And even I saw in Tamil Nadu also popular music in South Indian countries is always cinema music. They don't use Carnatic ragas. It's all Hindustani or Western kind of music. So what people hear more in these parts in North India also. So then what happens, only how the dancer looks, how much acrobatic she's doing, what type of dress, and so real core of the thing is lost on people. So
Right.
that is why this idea I felt that I should try in Hindustani music. So initially I had started with Natya Sangeet because I felt old Natya Geets had that Nayak Nayika songs, and even removed from the themes because they were either historical, mythological, so people would understand. And it's not only my generation, even now next younger generation, Natya Sangeet is again becoming order of the day very popular because those are very catchy tunes, ragdari, but are made into like we say rakti, rakti kind of thing. So people enjoy that. So initially I started with this, and doing Abhinaya to songs wasn't at all a problem because Hindustani music was always in my ears. I've been learning also in school. From school days, we had classical Hindustani music in school. We had tanpuras, and so that wasn't much of a problem. And many renowned musicians, they showed faith in my ideas. Pandit Vasantrao Deshpande, Dr. Prabhat, Pandit Suresh Savalkarji, they all showed faith. They said, no, no, Sucheta, you must do this. It will happen. As I said, I didn't want just to do some songs, Hindustani bandishes in Bharatanatyam. What I thought was you cannot bring something of the original in the translation or transliteration. I wanted to create a complete, just as we have this principle of Margam in Bharatanatyam. There should be a Margam for whatever I dance. So whatever comes out with Hindustani music. So then it had to have compositions which had Rati Vatsalya Bhakti. And the basic body language was same based on Ayata, but the musical nuance is different, and that kind of gives it a different flavor. I didn't purposely change the style or anything as such, nor that has not been on my mind, creating different style. I wanted to bring the beauty of Bharatanatyam closer to larger audience, the real beauty. Real beauty is not just the dress, costume, and the dance movements, circus type dance movements or jumps or things. So that is why then I analyzed Bharatanatyam into 5 main things: the Ayata position and all body movement together, the Rati Vatsalya Bhakti, principle of Margam, all kinds of types of music is there. Is alap, there is sargam, there are shollus, there are swara shollus, there are sahitya. So all this I felt should be in my program in Hindustani classical. So you can say what I did probably was take the seed of Bharatanatyam and sow it in the soil of Hindustani music. So what has grown up it is Bharatanatyam, like Subhadra Murthy, one of renowned critic from Mumbai once. She saw Nritya Ganga and she said, well, Sucheta has created a new Bani of Bharatanatyam. So it was, really a process. I worked on it, I think, for 10, 12 years. Rhythm, Tara part was the main problem because Tala systems are quite different. So that I had to work a lot, and Pandit Talwalkar ji helped me a lot in this. And finally, from tabla also I shifted to Pakhavats because that gives better resonance to the solid Bharatanatyam movement. So slowly from 88 now I have been performing. I gave it a different name because people, when we say Bharatanatyam in Hindustani classical music, people look for Bharatanatyam. So then they will say, well, this is Shabdam is not there, Vardam is not there, because that's what they understand as Bharatanatyam. So I thought Ganga is a river, holy river for whole of India. And now I don't want to create something for a Maharashtra song. No, this is the all India style for everybody because body language is South Indian. And now it was, I had really little, I felt that I am not breaking any tradition, I am only furthering it. But I wanted the knowledgeables to accept it. And the very first performance itself generated a lot of appreciation. I remember in Mumbai, this Aruna Sairam's father, Mr. Seturaman, he used to then write in Shruti. He liked the idea so much, he invited me, talked about it, and he also introduced to other sabhas, and then the programs of Nritya Ganga have started. I've danced it all over again in foreign countries also. It's appreciated as something different, some other body of Bharatanatyam. At least it has got that place now. And in Krishnagana Sabha in Chennai, they specially invited me to perform Nritya Ganga. And person like Mr. V.A.K. Rangarao wrote an review in Shruti, and where he said, well, if I see it's most as beautiful Bharatanatyam, if I hear it's beautiful Hindustani music, so what is there to object? So it was received. He even compared it like flower and its fragrance, the dance. So that was my moment of satisfaction, because nowhere I am so much a traditionalist, and I believe and love the tradition. So there was nothing, no thought of, I would have got disturbed if somebody would have felt that I'm doing something to the, it's enriching, just as the Maratha rulers felt they should pen in Marathi. Now that was, in those times, that was relevant, but now today it doesn't carry the same relevance, though it did create a lot of interest among Marathi audiences in Bharatanatyam, because otherwise it was something, different, foreign, nice to look at, that's all. Bharatanatyam, I've seen Bharatanatyam. So you don't feel that you go and see it again or it will be a different program. Of course, in last 50 years of my career, things have changed a lot. Now it's become order of the day. A lot of young dancers are utilizing Hindustani music, even in proper Carnatic kacheri also. There is a lot of give and take is bound to happen, of ideas. And one thing I would say for South Indian audience, whatever music, when it's good music, they will always appreciate, and this appreciation I got for Nritya Ganga also. Dr. V. Raghavan helped me a lot in my Shaji research. He gave me a lot of references, and he was very appreciative. In fact, he organized my performance of Shaji pieces with Kitappa doing Natmangam and the whole setup in Music Academy. So it was in month of May, and a small ad in the write-up in the Hindu, but the hall was full, And my husband, I was there, my husband was really going through the audience, listening to the reaction. So there were people who said, today we saw real Bharatnatyam. He asked, what is that? So, maybe those from Tanjore, they are very proud of their Marathi lineage and Marathi rulers. And we had one Mr. Raman in Mumbai. He would make it a point to speak to me in Marathi. Tumi kase kai aahe vagere. So the rulers had become so one with their subject. So probably a Maharashtrian girl doing Carnatic and doing Marathi things, it kind of, I don't know. They said that this is the Bharatanatyam.
No, absolutely, ma'am, absolutely. And as you rightly mentioned, because even the art forms in the south also had a lot of influence, because especially during the Maratha period, so there was a lot of intermixing, there was a lot of exchange that was already happening.
Yes.
So I think in a way, I think in a way you have taken it ahead. Probably you have brought those things back to the land where it was.
Well, I have also now some 10, 15 senior students who are doing Nritya Ganga. I hope they will. I don't claim, though it's now almost 25 years I've been doing, but still there are many things I have to create a system for it, for teaching, for young children. Now those who are already established or already proficient in Bharatanatyam can do it because they being girls being here, they hear Hindustani music, and if I explain the tala part, they are able to dance it. There are a lot of pure dance compositions also I have created for this. So the new parangs were created for Bharat, because I didn't anyway want to lose the charm of, because see, Hindustani music, Kathak is already there. I didn't want to do Kathak. I wanted to do Bharatnatyam, and I did feel that it will collaborate, because in Tanjore there was this collaboration of Marathi and Carnatic music. So I felt, why not Bharatnatyam and Hindustani music? You see, so that gave me that faith and power to, yes, I will do it. And well, now more and more they want to learn, especially in France and in America. Those are, of course, my students from Mumbai who are teaching there. And I went to Florida, and in Miami, my student did Nritya Ganga performance with local musicians there, and I had sent all the compositions sung, and this girl learned it there, and it was a great show. So, if it has that capacity, it will spread. But one thing has come, that no more it is a taboo, that if one uses Hindustani music, people don't, it comes naturally. And also one renowned Kathak dancer in Pune, she told me, give me some Carnatic padam, I want to do in Kathak. so you see, that has generated a lot of interest.
No, ma'am, absolutely, absolutely. I think, and as you mentioned, I think the very beautiful point or the takeaway here was that you didn't do it for the heck of doing it. You really had a purpose, that you wanted this art form to reach to the people, and they were not understanding that particular language in terms of the music or in terms of the lyrics. So it all developed very organically, which is, I think, the most beautiful thing about this. It's a very organic development led to Nritya Ganga.
Thank you, you understood. Actually, without demonstration, it's difficult, but still, I have tried to explain.
No, ma'am, absolutely. This is what I said. Because you mentioned those many years, it's very difficult to comprise them and say in a few minutes, this is what it is. So I think to level base, this is what we can discuss. Amazing, ma'am. I think the last few minutes, I don't know how it's gone. It's been really interesting to listen you, especially of your days, how you're taking the art form to the next generation, and also these very interesting facets of our tradition of this kind of exchange between different regions and their art forms. It was amazing, ma'am. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
this Sambhashana, ma'am. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope all the
Yes.
Rasikas also will enjoy this, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thanks.
So, Rasikas, as we saw, amazing artists we have in our nation, and what kind of exchanges we have seen. Even in the past sessions, we have seen a lot of these where a lot of exchange between the Marathi rulers, how the Marathi rulers had patronized a lot of the South Indian art. So, truly, in amidst the when we are celebrating our 74th Independence Day and this year, it really shows the integration, the national integration in our nation, how the art forms have exchanged and taken up, the good things of one another. And Sucheta ma'am beautifully explained, and she's living, and she created this wonderful art form. I'm sure all of you enjoyed this. Just keep waiting for many more such sessions in future on Subbu's Corner. Until then, keep watching. Visit, like, and subscribe Subbu's Corner on YouTube channel and Facebook. Till we come to the next session. Namaskara.